Hello, this is Will Faerber from Art to Ride, and today we're looking at a second submission by Pat of our horse Tali. And just right in the beginning here, I want to say what a great job she's done on this. This is such a huge improvement over what we saw on the last tape. Now, Pat was able to work with me in Edmonton last May, I believe it was, and we had a really good session there, and she's just applied what she learned in that clinic and brought it home, and what a great job she's now doing. So Pat, really great job. So the answer to your question is, am I getting the horse over the back? And the answer to that is most of the time at this point. So really good job. And the horse even just looks very different than the last time we saw the horse. Your walk is much more bigger, open and swinging, much more regular. Now, of course, there are moments that it gets a little too slow, like right there. It gets a little slower when we want to send it on forward. But this is really good work. And such a huge improvement of what we saw. I mean, just look even there, there's the top line of the horse. You can see what a nicer outline it now has. Now, there's still a little bit of a dip behind the saddle there, we can see, but that's a big improvement over what it was. And just the length of the horse's neck, and see how it swings here. Look how beautiful that is right there. Now, that's about optimal. Right there, those last 3 or 4 steps, when you really had that big step, is what you want to work for with every step. But this is a huge improvement. So now to this, what you want to just add is start doing some leg yields. So what I want to see then is beginning to do more active leg yields just down the center line. And once you get them from the center line, then you just start working on them from the outside to the inside. So from the inside to the outside first, most of the time with most horses, and then from the outside to the inside. And then when you can do both of those, then you're ready to start a little shoulder forward down the long sides. But what a good walk this is. I mean, look how beautiful the horse's neck has become. And, you know, this is the thing for people to understand, is that this training totally changes how a horse looks. I mean, you can take a very common looking horse, and, in 3 years of work, when they've really come together and they've really brought up their shoulders, and that has brought their withers up through their shoulders, it looks like a totally different horse. And once again, that's why, like the saddlebred thing, which started in New York City in the park, saddle seat. That's why I called it park seat, And the guy actually there thought he was imitating classical dressage by putting the horses up on these platform shoes and this kind of stuff to make them look like they were a trained horse. But of course, as we know, that doesn't lead to anything at all. But what you're doing here is going to. There's a beautiful swing in this walk now. It's just really lovely. So once again, just adding to that, what I'd like to see is you're beginning to do more leg yields down the center line and to the outside, and just keeping that same rhythm. So that's your goal. Now that you have the horse over the top line, the goal is just to be able to maintain it and just keep it in that stretch. And if you just saw the recent video that I did of the horse Salinera, I just happened to capture the first day the horse actually connected and was able to come up in the connection. It took about 1.5 years with that horse. And once again, I tried many times. She wasn't able to sustain it. But then all of a sudden, when they gain enough strength, all of a sudden they can do it. That's very different than the idea of pulling horses into a frame. If you pull them into a frame, all you'll do is shorten the horse's frame, which of course is not collection. And once again, that's what we see so often in the show ring today. It's a good moving horse. It's just got a lot of activity. But in my mind, there's so many of them that they can't even walk. Or they come back to a walk and they don't have as good a walk as this horse, and it's some $500,000 horse that somebody's bought, and it can no longer walk regularly. So once again, that should have been and should be a huge clue to everybody about dressage. I mean, if what you're calling dressage is ruining the horse's natural gaits, there's something seriously wrong with what you're doing or how you're thinking about dressage. But what you're doing here, we can see that the gaits have clearly improved, and that's exactly what we want to be doing. So if the gaits seem like they're getting worse, if your horse is getting sourer and you're trying to ride dressage, it should tell you there's something going wrong with the picture, and walk away from the picture you're in and find another place or do it on your own, as I said, like Pat is doing a great job of here. So once you realize if you can walk, trot, and canter a horse, and you're comfortable on the back of a horse, I'm not talking about a beginner who's never been on the back of a horse, but if you're comfortable on the back of a horse and you have no fear of the horse that you're riding, you can train it if you're willing to understand and take the time to do it right. Really nice. So you got a little bit of a leg yield there, and the horse got a little rounder and a little deeper through it. The real beautiful thing to look at here is this is how different the outline looks when you go back and look at your previous video. And there you have a little moment, but you're doing just the right thing. Got a little slow there, but you just got your shoulders back behind the motion a little bit, sent the horse on again. Now you got the horse swinging and back down over its back again. So once again, watch the legs, and you can see when it's right because they clearly become, they look machine-like. There's precision and accuracy to the rhythm. That's why we talk about rhythm being the most important thing when we work horses, because the rhythm tells you what's going on. But it's not a nervous rhythm. That's where we went wrong. In the modern show ring, they got the idea the horses need to be rhythmic, but not in tension. So what we started seeing with people rolkering is just taking these beautiful horses and strangling them until, they're hugely active and kind of rhythmic. But as I said, it's a very tense kind of rhythm. It'd be like listening to a symphony where everybody's, got a machine gun pointed at their head. Yeah, they're playing, but, there's a tension to it. Well, that's exactly what people are doing, to these horses. They're basically holding a gun to their head, and saying, if you don't become active. And that's the same thing that we've seen in recent years with Tennessee walking horse trainers, these guys that got arrested happily for electrocuting these horses. I mean, all the things that you see done to them. When actually it's just so easy once you understand how to do this correctly if you're willing to take the time. So once again, I like how you went into the trot there. You didn't try to struggle to keep the horse in the perfect frame, but you were able to bring the horse back over its back again and get it a little more into the contact with only a few strides. So that's really quite good. This is hugely better than what I saw before. Still needs to go down a little bit more here, where it's going to. But look how much more ground the covering. We want it a little more swinging than what you have here, but this is good and is going to develop into something correct. Really, really nice right there, even getting better and better. So yes, you are definitely getting this horse over its back in a wonderful way. And once again, there's no fighting. That's the thing to realize, if you're fighting with a horse, there's probably something wrong with what you're doing. Really good here. Really nice work. And of course, once we get those leg yields going in the walk, then we can start doing the same thing in the trot. So I think you can start putting in more of the leg yields. Look how beautiful this horse is trotting over its back here. This is just wonderful work, Pat. You've done a wonderful job here. You're absolutely transforming this horse. And once again, I want you folks to look at the footing here. Today, so many of these dressage people are, they never ride their horse outside of a ring that's got perfect footing. Well, until about 20 years ago, is about when people started getting really interested in footing in rings, that it actually mattered. But that's why it used to matter that you did your dressage correctly, because once, of course, if you're keeping the horse hollow and you step on a rock or step into a hole, it's going to be detrimental to the horse. But chances of a horse working, when they're working over their backs, which of course is why it was so important when I used to ride fox hunting horses, and you're really galloping cross country, a horse that's not over its back is going to fall or land hard on the first rock it steps on, and you're going to be out of the game, which I've seen many, many, many times. So once again, that's the point of correct dressage, was to get horses over their backs, put the shock absorbers on the horse, and once again, it makes the horse kind of like four-wheel drive, and the horse is now balanced on all four legs instead of just balanced on its front end. Because remember, once again, when we talk about horses being on the front end, it has nothing to do with how high the horse brings its knees. That's what people started thinking, that collection had something to do with the horse's knees coming high. That just depends on how high the knee comes, just depends on what kind of breed you're riding. In other words, it's conformation. But this is wonderful work. And of course, any horse that once it gets in real collection really lowers behind, then you see an elevated knee. But if you try to elevate the knee, and we're seeing this in dressage today where people are doing this, trying to work in piaffe, where they're hitting the front legs of the horses, that's just total backwards thinking, and all it ends up with is a very, very hollow or nervous piaffe. Look how nice this horse is going here. This is absolutely beautiful work, Pat. Great job, very commendable, and a huge improvement. So once again, you got it. Now all you have to do is keep doing more of the same. And in a while, you'll just feel like the horse. You'll be able to, remember, the idea is to be able to maintain the same trot. Where you feel that nice swinging trot, then you simply will bring the horse's head up as high as it can come. Now, once again, also know that a horse like this is not built with a high head carriage. He's never going to have a real high head set because he's not built that way. That doesn't mean he can't collect. He can collect. He's just never going to have this neck that comes straight out of the shoulders upwards. That's just not going to happen because he's not built that way. So that's also how we got into trouble in dressage, is we started, judges started looking at the neck and what the neck was doing, and instead of, every horse has a different conformation. Where its neck is depends on the horse. As I say, most mares, for instance, of any breed, have a more straight out and horizontal neck than the male of the species. So all that has to be taken into account. Pat, that was an excellent ride. So next time I see you, I just want to see you get some of a little more going with the leg yields, and then I think you will be right on track. So great job, Will Faerber from Art to Ride. Keep it up.